Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, that's G-R-A-N, group, at edinarealty.com, or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners.
Men for the Win is part of the Pulltab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pulltab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 1 or 2 or 3 or 1.5, however many games they played. We're going to talk about those games. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. Dan back from gallivanting all across Texas, just in time to watch the Twins try and play a series against the Guardians. But Dan, here in Minneapolis, it hasn't stopped raining since, I don't know, like Sunday night.
You know, I like to follow the weather in Minnesota just from a distance, just through the weather apps, things like I'm a weather guy.
You would have to do it through a distance,
well,
Dan.
That's true, yeah. But, because Paul Douglas, right? I love Paul Douglas, Sven Sundgaard. The celebrity, weatherman, my favorite.
He liked one of our posts on Twitter. That's got to be, that's the most famous we'll ever be, Dan.
Oh, man. So, yes, I hear they were able to sneak some games in. And then there's even like a high school game happening at Target Field after the game and a half that got played today.
Very confusing, yes. I don't know exactly how that's all going to work with the weather getting worse like almost as soon as the game ended.
But it was, so I was in Texas, as you noted. I was in Dallas visiting a friend. And so we went to Arlington, and this was a trip we had tried to do. We had scheduled for April of 2020, and then that obviously didn't happen. But I finally got to go to Globe Life Field, and I'm a field collector, if you want to call it that. Yeah. I think this was like my 17th major league city that I've seen a game in. It's such a cool stadium. It is one of those that is, it's convertible, right? That the roof can go in and go out. But what's interesting is that in Texas, it gets, 100 degrees like every day from June to August, right? So, and it was a good 85, 90 degree day when we were there. So the roof was closed, but it struck me that you have to enclose it and then air condition it. And I was just thinking of like the heating and cooling bill that this place must have. Oof. But it really, really nice stadium, great sight lines, affordable food and beverages. We got there early enough to see batting practice. The Rangers were playing the Astros, and there's something really enjoyable about listening to like a chorus of boos from Texas fans when Jose Altuve comes up to the plate. Like it was as close as I could get to that appearance. Was it the Twins home opener when Altuve struck out 5 times?
Yes.
He didn't do that against the Rangers, but it was fun. I even got a hat, right? See, you can see, David, I went with a different style this time.
Is it camo?
It looks that way, yes. Yeah. It wasn't, there was the hat that I wanted that it didn't quite have. Like in my mind, it's like in Adobe Photoshop, I had drawn a hat that I would have wanted. This isn't quite it, but it's still pretty good.
Ogres are like onions.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Of course, Dan. I like it. It's a very unique looking hat, which is good. If you're going to collect them, I think you kind of have to go one of two ways. You either have to go fully unique or you have to go with whatever the most traditional of the team is.
And I am all over the map with that. They had their City Connects. I know we talk about City Connects a lot. It's like we're like this fashion baseball podcast.
Oh, wait, real quick, just settle this. Hogs was wrong, right? Those green monster uniforms are great.
Oh, they're fantastic. I love them.
Right? Okay, good.
Yes, no, it's much better than that. But I also think they set the bar low with the yellow ones for the marathon. Yeah. So anyway, but the green monster is very iconic. They got the color just perfectly. So anyway, great trip, but good to be back. I'm going to switch my hat, so I'm back to like a Twins mindset.
Yes, great. Well, then with that, Dan, let's jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
I do have one more complaint, actually. So the new Twins homepage on the website, because I've been looking a lot to see when these baseball games are going to be played, it's terrible. I could not even tell when today's game was or which one was. So come on, Twins website people, like this is not the time to change these things when you literally don't know what inning it is in which game has been paused or begun.
You know that I complained about this like 4 episodes
ago,
right?
No, but I feel like the change didn't set in for the West Coast or something like that. Because I swear
okay.
I had not seen the website designed like this until now.
This makes me feel way better because, yeah, your browser probably needs an update because Hogs and I, before off air, we hadn't even started recording yet. Hogs was telling me how wrong I was about the website. And I'm like, you can't even find the standings. There's no way on the current Twins page to get to the MLB standings. And he goes, no, it's right there on the bottom right.
No,
and
I can't see it. It's not there anymore, David.
No,
So yeah,
it's not there. So I shared my screen and he's like, oh, your website looks way different. And he goes, and I went down and I tagged all of the ads that were on that page because it is insane how many advertisements there are. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's really bad. Like he had not seen the webpage that I was complaining about for him to push back on me for. So I'm glad, Dan, that you are as upset as I am. Twins, it's like they're trying to bother the fan base in every single way they can when they're finally getting a little bit more attention because of the win streak.
Anyway, 2-game one that happened over the course of like 47 hours.
Yes.
The Twins do win this game 6-5.
Bailey Ober starts this game, Dan.
Where did all these unsupervised children come from?
He goes 3 innings pitched, gives up 3 hits, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts. I don't know. Dan, we're going to talk about this more in Rocco's Rewind, but it bothered me so much looking at the weather report. Anybody, Dan, if I showed a picture to my kid and I said, hey, kiddo, this ugly green, red, like symbol here, this represents the rain, and here's the time when they're going to try and play this baseball game. Do you think they're going to be able to do it without too much rain? She would say, no, that's crazy, Daddy.
We've talked, he seems to appear with weather a lot. There's like in the Venn diagram of Bailey Ober and inclement weather, there's a lot of overlap, I think. This was the whole storm before. It was a weird choice. We're going to talk more about that later. So anyway, the Twins are leading this game 2-1 when it's suspended. They don't play Tuesday. They didn't even really try much to play Tuesday. No. They called that pretty early. And so then Wednesday, they pick this game up kind of late morning, midday-ish, around tea time, in the late afternoon, Elevenses or something like that is about when this happened. So in any case, Joe Ryan takes over. Carlos Santana ties the game at 2, but then the Twins are able to take the lead again in the bottom of the 4th here. Larnach singles. Clemens hits an RBI triple. That man came up a lot in this series. Bader hits a sac fly, so it's 4-2. And then the Twins are able to threaten. They do a little bit more. They could have used more than the one more run they got in the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah, bottom of the 5th, when they had the opportunity, France actually lines into a double play because Lewis can't get back to second base. Probably here should have slid back into second base. Instead, he just tried to stick his foot out really fast, which was not great. I think he would have made it had he slid. Quick thing, though, here. The Twins looked at it as if they were going to review it, and we've talked about this a lot on this show about Rocco's hand motions for when he wants things reviewed versus when he wants play to continue. And normally when it's play to continue, he does this whole circular motion with his finger, come on, get on with it here. Here, Dan, he does a cut action, just a one swipe left to right with a flat hand. What makes that change, do you suppose, in Rocco's mind? When we've seen him do this, I don't know, probably 100 or 200 times over the course of the last few seasons, why the change all of a sudden?
So are you saying that instead of doing the twirly twirl play on, he meant as in a slash across, play on? That's what it was supposed to mean? I mean, maybe he was ill recently and maybe something in his brain got addled, there was a hard reset or something like that. Didn't quite take.
No, but then other notes here. Top of the 7th to end the inning, Jeffers catches a foul tip, but the way he catches it is it hits off of his glove, off of his body, off of his knee, and then Jeffers comes up with a ball. And I just Provis called it Jedi stuff that Jeffers was able to catch this ball.
Bottom of the 8th, the Twins do get their run here on a Bader RBI single, so it's 5-2. You feel kind of okay. We're going to talk about the 9th inning of this game at length here a little bit later, but the short of it is at the top of the 9th, the Guardians do tie it, of course, and then in the bottom of the 9th, the Twins win it in a way that we would not have expected.
No, I mean, top of the 9th was just rough because you really wanted to see Joe Ryan get through the whole game and not have to use anybody else, but Rocco was really forced to bring in Duran because at that point Ryan was struggling. So anyway, yes, we'll talk about the end of the game here in a bit. Game 2, Twins lose this one 5-1. Chris Paddock on the mound pitches pretty well, especially considering the conditions, and it seems like he does seem like a guy who likes his weather warmer, Dan, more Texas, less Minnesota, but he goes 5 1/3, 7 hits, 2 earned run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Bottom of the 3rd here, though, Twins get on the board first with a Castro walk followed by a Kersey flyout and Vasquez ground ground out. But Jeffers comes up big here because that's all that man does is get hits with 2 outs, RBI single, so the Twins are up 1-0.
Yeah, but then it's all Guardians after that. Top of the 6th, the Guardians able to score a couple runs there through a walk as well. There was a sac fly in there, just not the way you want to give up runs. Top of the 8th, Carlos Santana hits a solo home run to right that really looked a lot better last year when he was playing for the Twins and not against them. So it's 3-1. And then Cody Funderburk comes in and is not able to get the outs. He allows Big Christmas to get a single. Jackenzie Noel, I should say his real name. Stephen Kwan, a lefty, doubles off of Funderburk. And then a sac fly. This was an interesting moment because, and they talked about it on the TV cast, I thought Morneau did a good job, where Larnach probably could have let that drop and it would have been foul, and then the run does not score on the sac fly. But that's a tough play. Morneau's point was that you just don't know, and you really don't want to score the double. Now, the double ended up, they scored a couple runs anyway. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think in that moment, the Twins were going to have to score some runs anyway. And I think you take the sure out as opposed to giving the Guardians any more pitches. But it does seem like it's one of those few moments in baseball where you were not making the play is maybe the better call. But who's to say in this moment exactly what the right move is?
And that's it then. The Guardians win this one 5-1. Now the Twins actually are still in second place in this crowded AL Central, at least after the Tigers. The Tigers lead majors with 33 wins. They're 33-17. Twins are 27-22. The Royals are 28-23, and the Guardians are 26-22. And then there's the White Sox at 15-35. Not the worst team in Major League Baseball, but the worst team in the division by far.
Yeah, and thankfully, Detroit plays Cleveland. And I think that's going to be an interesting series to watch because Detroit has been so good. It would be nice if we could knock the Guardians out of the running early so that they seem like a team that's sort of defeated. Get them to the point where they're thinking about moves at the trade deadline, Dan. That's how bad I want the Guardians to fall. But the Twins do play Kansas City. They're reeling a bit currently. I'm hoping that the Twins can capitalize. But Dan, with all of this weather that we've had, I'm honestly shocked we didn't see some of those Twins players out on the field instead of hitting the showers. They could have just walked out onto the field. And you know what products they're using, Dan? They are using Duke Cannon hair products. Let me tell you, Duke Cannon makes high-quality grooming products for hardworking men. Minnesota-based and with an all-new look. Their clean new packaging featuring the Big D is unmistakable on the shelves. Whether you go for a brick of soap, thick body wash, deodorant, hair care, beard care, or cologne, Duke Cannon will have you smelling your best. Look for the Big D at Target, Walmart, Amazon, or DukeCannon.com. Once you try it, you'll be hooked. Work harder, smell better. Duke Cannon.
Touch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
Sadness, Dan. Sadness. Especially because it comes at a cost to me personally. Cody Clemens, very near and dear to my heart. Hogue still come off the board, comes away with 5 points, comes away with the victory. Thankfully does not get the bonus because Ryan Jeffers had 7. Clemens had 5. You took Lee, Dan, who had 0. I took Lewis, who had 2. The listeners took Larnach, who honestly has been a pretty good pick as of late, who actually ends up scoring -2. So it was a rough series here from the Puckett's Picks perspective, especially because Hogue comes away with the victory.
Yeah, now he has the lead in the season wins, or he extends it. He's got 6.5 points. David, you have 5. I have 4. The listeners have 2.5. And then in the total points scored, Hogue continues to lead with 62. You have 43. The listeners have 28. And I have, of course, 23.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
It's such a short series, Dan. It's really hard to pick beasts and benches here because we only had 2 games. It felt like less than that because of the way things turned out with the weather. I'm just going to give it to the guy who cemented the win for the Twins in Game 1. I'm going to give it to Cody Clemens.
Weren't we talking about Cody Clemens not being on this roster much longer? And then here, I don't
recall, Dan.
I can't recall.
That doesn't sound like me.
He is obviously a great pick. I picked Ryan Jeffers because he gets on base 6 times in 2 games. He even took a pitch. Questionably, he may not have actually been struck by it, but towards the end of Game 2, 6 times in 2 games, that's pretty good.
Clever girl.
Yeah, for my bench here, I got to give it to Louis Varland. Or the Hulk. I guess we need a Hulk sounder now because that's what the Twins are trying to do.
We're not going to buy into that, David. That's their thing. We don't have to go.
I just want to make a new sounder that has the Hulk noise. Actually, hang on. We do have a Bruce Banner sounder, don't we? It's over here somewhere.
I see this as an absolute win.
Yeah, we do. That's the Hulk, technically.
Right,
or Bruce Banner. It's when Bruce Banner is sort of the Hulk. It's when he's like in the in-between. Spoiler
you're talking
alert
about
if you
things
haven't
that
seen.
I don't really know much about. So
you didn't watch Avengers Endgame?
I'm not in
height?
that world. I'm not in that world.
You never watched that whole Avengers
I've watched
series?
like 4 Avengers movies, I think, before they thought they were going to make all of them. Like the early ones, like Thor and Iron Man. Like, I think that's about as far.
Iron Man? How did you just say that? Say that word again, Dan.
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
That sounds like a guy who's working on a ship, Dan. Not Iron Man.
Anyway,
the whole.
I've seen a couple of them. Yeah, I don't know. I hear he dies later. It's all very confusing to me.
Spoiler alert!
Wait, is
Dan.
it
We
a
don't know
spoiler? I
who's
just
listening.
hear things. How can
Well,
I
yeah, it
spoil
is a
something that I
spoiler.
don't know anything about?
Well, apparently pretty easily, Dan. Okay, so I'm going to give it to Varland here for the walk in Game 2 top 6. It's inexcusable. I would rather have you give up a Grand Slam. We just talked about this last
Oh, man,
episode
yeah.
than walking a guy with the bases loaded. Make him hit the ball, Dan, especially when it's rainy, it's wet outside. I understand getting a grip on the ball is difficult. You still have to throw the ball over the plate here in this instance.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a different guy for my bench. I'm going to go with Carson McCusker. Now,
Rude.
well, he only had 1 plate appearance in these 2 games, and he struck out. And it was mighty, right? Like, it was a memorable strikeout. But I was just hoping for more here from him in this series than a very impressive bat flight that after it left his hands.
If you haven't seen this, folks, so McCusker chucked a bat pretty deep into left field. Like, it wasn't like home run level, but it went a long way. The furthest I've ever seen a bat throw unintentionally into the outfield. And my favorite part about it is in the post-game interviews, McCusker said he turned to the ump and said, "You ever seen a bat fly that far?" Which just gives you a little bit of insight into his sense of humor, which made me smile, Dan.
It's right. So I still like the guy, but I was hoping for a little bit more given how decimated the Twins roster is right now. I was just surprised he didn't play in Game 2 and didn't have more chances.
Okay, well, with that, Dan, let's go ahead and push forward here. Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
Okay, this is what I looked up before. We've talked about this before. When it comes to baseball games, Dan, once the game officially starts, the weather and the decision-making is in the hands of the umpires. However, prior to that, the home team can choose to suspend or postpone baseball games. First of all, I commend the Twins for trying to get some of these games in, knowing that having to put them at the end of the season is not ideal, not only from a standings perspective, but also you don't know what your team's going to look like at that time. My question is, Dan, if you're the Twins, do you not go to Rocco and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And if you're Rocco, how are you not knocking on the door of the Pulltab saying, "Hey, I don't want to burn a Bailey Ober start for 3 innings"? That is ridiculous, Dan Thompson. I think Rocco needs to advocate better when we have our star pitchers on the mound. If we're talking about an SWR start here or a David Fester or a Zebby Matthews start, sure, let's see what he can do. But if you know that game is likely to get not just delayed, there's going to be a suspended play here. How are you not arguing in favor of, hey, let's just not start this game? Or if we are, give me some time to make some roster adjustments.
Well, so a couple things about that. I think it's terribly ironic that they're playing the Guardians in this situation, because when the Twins were in Cleveland and the shoe was on the other foot, the Guardians did all kinds of what we would argue manipulation with the start time of this game. But isn't this the most Minnesotan thing ever, right? Like, we're just going to say, we see what the Guardians might have done that seemed a little improprietous. We're not going to sink to their level. It seems very passive aggressive to not be more aggressive in this moment about being like, listen, this isn't good for our baseball team. We have Correa and Buxton in protocol for concussions. Our roster doesn't have a lot of flexibility. Matt Wallner is not back yet, who, by the way, he's going to be coming back hopefully soon. He's going to be starting a rehab stint. It's just like, you can make some different choices here, and nobody's going to fault you, especially because the Guardians just manipulated this the last time they played.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Yeah, it was quite infuriating. So I guess that's my word to Rocco here is, dude, you have to be more in control when you have the ability to make some changes. Do so. Yeah, I don't want to play these games right now.
Well, and especially because Wednesday turned out to be a decent enough day, you could argue they probably even could have gotten 2 full games in on Wednesday if they really had to. So, yeah, a strange thing in that way. It does give the Twins kind of this weird mix of off days here, not playing on Tuesday. And now they don't play on Thursday either. So at least hopefully that does help them in terms of just for the fact that they did get to push one of these games to later in the season into September, when hopefully they will have a pretty full roster. My rewind is just kind of to note that Rocco got to do a piggyback start in a very different way, right? Because Bailey Ober starts the first half of game one. 2 days later, Joe Ryan gets to do, hop on his back, so to speak, and pitch the rest out. It would have been really cool if Joe Ryan could have actually finished this game, and we talked about that earlier, just because of, for nothing else, you don't have to use Duran, which would have been nice to avoid. There is an off day, but I just thought, I wonder if Rocco was kind of like, just maybe one of the reasons he wanted to do this is he was trying to like check a box on his Twingo card or something like that about getting a Twingo start across 2 days.
Could be, Dan. Joe Ryan does seem like a guy who would just jump on Bailey Ober's back and be like, and Bailey Ober, because of all the children, he's so used to it. I doubt he would even be like surprised. You're right. Even if he knows his kids are there, you know how it is, Dan. You're a father. Like if somebody jumps on your back, you carry them.
You're always
That's
ready.
What happens?
Right? I
mean, you fling them over your shoulder and you pin them to the ground like you're play wrestling. You don't. It wouldn't shock Bailey Ober if Joe Ryan jumped on his back. Is all I'm saying.
Expect the unexpected. That's what you got to do.
And you'll never be surprised. Okay. Well, with that, Dan, let's go ahead and hit our Minnesota moments.
Minnesota moment.
I'm following along. It's game one, top 9. And of course, the Twins blow a lead to the Guardians in the top of the 9th.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Yeah, it was the most Twins Guardians thing ever. Now, the Twins admittedly have more trouble with the Guardians at Progressive Field than they do at Target Field. But Bo Naylor stepping up and hitting a 2-out, 2-run RBI double to tie the game was just so on brand for the Twins. Luckily, they ended up winning the game, which is what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, so bottom 9, my guy Cody Clemens hits the walk-off winner. I want to set the stage a little bit here. So Lewis lines out, Francis hit by pitch, Kersey Jr. flies out. So now you got a guy on first with 2 outs. Jonah Bride comes to the plate, hits a single. He is the most unassuming person, Dan. Like, I am pretty convinced that Jonah Bride could rob 12 banks and not a single one of them would be able to give you an accurate police sketch of what this guy looks like. Because every time he's on the field, I'm like, oh yeah, he's on our team. Yeah, I remember him. Definitely. Is he right-handed? Is he left?
I have no idea what he looks like.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like he can get away with anything because he'll never.
I'm trying
be
to picture
recognized.
him right now in my head, and I can't.
Point proven. But so Clemens comes through with a big RBI walk-off double. Angel Martinez looked like he was actually going to get there, but the ball was just out of reach in center field. I just have a bone to pick, Dan, with the way that they do scoring. Because Clemens was credited with a triple when he hit a triple earlier in the game on a very similar play where the center fielder dove for the ball, doesn't make contact with the ball gets to the wall, Clemens gets a triple. Here in this instance, almost a frame-for-frame reshoot of that play, and they give him a double. To me, a triple shouldn't be the result of the fielder failing to make the play. Like it's not an error, it's a dumb, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, I understand it helps the guy's stats, but it doesn't to me seem like, oh, it's the way that he hit it that caused it to work this way that he would get a double or a triple. It's because the fielder misplayed the ball or tried to make a play when he shouldn't have. So to me, again, Hoax's definitions of dumbs make a ton of sense to me. And in this instance, it's like, sure, he's going to get credited with a double or a triple, but he didn't really get a double or a triple in my mind.
No, he didn't earn it, but I don't know how else you score it. There's no
that's the
hits,
problem.
runs, errors, mound visits remaining, and then dumbs. Like they would have to expand all scoreboards across Major League Baseball. Like they couldn't do that.
Yeah, so we often talk about the side of the person who's committing the dumb, but we don't often talk about the resulting impact on the player who caused the dumb to happen.
Right, but it is interesting because remind me, what was the runner situation when he hits that double at the end there?
You had Bride on first and you had France on second.
So I'm actually even surprised they didn't just give him a single.
It was France on second, but now that I'm thinking about it, it was actually Fitzgerald.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
It was
the
perfect moment to pitch it.
Running.
I guess why it's a double is that runs, if Fitzgerald runs scores, and then that's kind of it, right? So I guess they just gave some credit to the runner at first getting to third by the time that run was scored, but it does feel very arbitrary.
Well, with that, Dan, here, let's keep pushing to Mauer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
So I'm gonna ask, how far can Hart carry a team right now? Because I can barely even pick fourth in Puckett's picks right now with any confidence. How can Rocco go after the first 4 guys in a lineup and say, yeah, those are the guys that I feel really confident in winning. Because right now, Hart is certainly carrying the team more than, Kersey and McCusker and Bride and Clemens, but and Fitzgerald, these are guys who maybe someday some of them will be productive players, and we certainly hope that they are. But it is remarkable, actually, to me that they even walked away with one of these. And you guys talked about this last episode, winning 2 of 3 Milwaukee with those guys. Remarkable.
Dan, let me tell you a brief story about my daughter. So I wake up, I'm always first up in my house, no question. Everybody else is still asleep. And I wake up, and the first thing, you go to the bathroom. That's what you do, right? So I open the door, and there's my daughter brushing her teeth, fully dressed for the day, ready to rock. And I'm like, interesting. And she's like, I already got dressed and I brushed my teeth and I ate breakfast and my backpack is ready. And I'm like, oh, what'd you have for breakfast? And she goes, I had cereal and milk. And I'm like, oh, and I didn't give it a second thought. Dan.
Oh no.
I was just like, okay, perfect. So then I'm sitting in my office and my kiddo's sitting next to me and I'm getting started for the day. I'm getting my emails and everything all in order here. And she's sitting there doodling or something. And all I hear from the kitchen is my wife saying, why are these towels in the kitchen? and my daughter, my sweet daughter goes, oh, I spilled a little milk. So she tried her best, Dan. She made breakfast. She made a little bit of a mess, but she tried her best to clean it up. And that's what this team is doing, Dan. They are trying their best to keep the messes contained, Dan, until the reinforcements of mommy and daddy in Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton come back.
Well, speaking of those reinforcements, I think that's part of your musing here.
Yeah, so my question is, do you think that Buxton comes back as good as he was? And do you think that Correa comes back better than he was?
Awesome question. Because Correa, we were talking about how Correa could have used the stint on the IL arguably because of his wrist injury, whether it's an injury or whether it's not, pain or what, I don't know what he's feeling in that. I sure think it will help him to have rested. He's also been pretty active from what I've been able to read. He's with the team. He's not at home in a dark room or anything like that. So thankfully, he seems to not be feeling a lot of those concussion symptoms any longer. Buxton is trickier because he was on such a run and he had such positive momentum. So you hope this isn't a step back in his performance at the plate, because I worry about him anytime there's an interruption. It seems like he suddenly starts swinging at those low and away pitches again. And that's my worry, is it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment for him. Maybe you bat him down a little lower in the lineup just for that first day or two, 6th or something like that, just to maybe take the pressure off a little bit.
And we should mention Mickey Gasper was called up as the 27th man for today's doubleheader. Since his demotion, Mickey Gasper is Aaron Judge now. I don't understand it. He's batting .452, .575, .859, 7 home runs and 8 walks, Dan.
I mean, Mickey Gasper's not going to do that at the major league level, though, right? I mean, some guys can make the jump. I don't think Mickey Gasper's just proven that just yet. The guy has 3 major league hits now? I mean, but isn't that the weirdest thing? You would think that it would translate to more. That the drop off would not be so cliff-like when he gets to the majors. But apparently Mickey it's the Peter principle again.
He's doing it, Dan. And, speaking of jumps that Mickey Gasper makes, I love his little Mario leap that he does.
He looks like Mario.
Base.
That's what it was. Does he know that he looks like Mario?
Yeah, that's why he does a little jump.
That is why he does it.
Breaking the block. What did you think he was doing?
I don't know. I couldn't tell if he knew that he was in on the joke. Or if maybe he just had never played Mario. That wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Dan, I am starting to seriously question your ability to stay up with pop culture references from 15 years ago. We were talking about the Avengers and you're like, the what's? And I'm like, and he does the Mario leap. Are you sure that's what it was? What on earth, Dan? You could do that on any country on the planet, I think. And you could do that leap and they'd be like, Mario. I've everybody would know that.
I know,
Dan.
but he's done so few things that are Mario leap earning, that you just, maybe I missed that
That's why
replay.
It's so notable, Dan. He's done it 3 times. The 3 times he got on base.
I got to go to a game in St. Paul and maybe I'll see it, 10 times in one game.
No, he's going to be back at the majors, man. It's going to be great. He's going to start ripping at Target Field.
All right, let's go on here. We got to grade this.
Series grades.
It's a C, Dan. And whatever, this worked out for the team. Having one of these games delayed is fantastic. They split. They really didn't have any business in winning any of these games, Dan. And thank goodness the pitching is still pretty decent. I'm just happy that they won one of these games, Dan.
Yeah, and so momentum, I'm going to give him on the -2 to +2, pendulum scale, I'm going to give him a +1 because of the reasons kind of you stated there. Decision making, I guess I got to lower this now after we've had this segment about Rocco's poor decision making with just playing the first game on time. stars, they just don't have a lot of stars available. Royce was okay, but the pitchers kind of did enough, so I'm going to call that a 0. The mids, Ryan Jeffers played pretty well. I'm going to give a +1. And the youth, Cody Clemens, I think kind of qualifies because he's new, I suppose.
He's new, but he's not a youth.
Yeah,
he's like 29
that's
or something.
true.
Yeah.
I'm lowering my grade as I go. I'm just going to say a 0 there. So if I convert that back to the 5-point scale, that's...
Hang on, folks. He's got to get his graphing calculator out to make this work.
That's 4 + 4 + 3 is 11, 15, 18 out of 25. So that's a 72. So actually, that's a C-. I dropped a whole letter grade from where I thought I was starting.
How many conversions? I mean, that's literally like 3 or 4 conversions. But Dan, I live my life in Excel, which the key is elegance, right? You want elegant solutions that are very clean. This makes me sick, Dan. It hurts my stomach when I look at this and how many conversions it took you to get from what you're trying to say to what you actually say.
Well, David, you mentioned elegance. And if there's one thing that is elegant this time of year and will make an elegant addition to your summer spread, it's coleslaw. And it's coleslaw season. We're deep into it. Grab a jar of Jimmy's coleslaw dressing to give your slaw the zip and zing that everyone will be talking about. Available in original, fat-free, and pineapple, Jimmy's is family fun and locally owned. Delicious on burgers, brats, pulled pork, and as a summertime side, you can't go wrong with Jimmy's. Pick up a jar today. Jimmy's salad dressing and dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
Okay, power rankings, Dan. I have been waiting for the Twins to finally be given a little bit of love in the national power rankings. They do, Dan. This time around, they shoot up to number 9 in the MLB.com power rankings, number 6 on Bleacher Report, and this is what I find funny and why I'm bringing this up. Number 13 in The Athletic. Now, we know who works for The Athletic. We have Dan Hayes and Aaron Gleeman. Aaron Gleeman, I don't think you'd define as an optimist by any stretch, and some of the writing that he's had this season has been quite critical. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just what it is. Do you think Aaron Gleeman is impacting the rankings at The Athletic to make the Twins lower than the other national sites have them listed?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like when Dennis Nedry is explaining what he's done, like to escape the island and the way that he has like shut down power in certain things and left. That's kind of feels like what Gleeman has done, where he's like, maybe he's got a rubric too. And he just like befuddled and baffled those poor other writers. And so I think, or maybe it's just his week to vote, but definitely they are much better than the 13th, at least I thought in the power rankings.
Ogres are like onions.
We need to back up. What did you just compare to? Was that
It was Jurassic Park, like in that scene when Dennis Nedry is nervous about trying to get away with the little vials of the little embryos. And so he tries to talk his way into explaining why the power is going to go out in certain parts of the park, but not others.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I am understanding now. You are talking about Newman is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, that's
a pop culture reference better. You don't know him as Dennis Nedry?
Nope, couldn't have told you his name at all.
Well, anyway, one of my favorite characters.
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
That's our Jurassic Park sounder. One of the two. And then one other quick note here.
All rise for Dan's Judge Love.
Well, okay, so Aaron Judge hit a home run that went 326 feet. Like Christian Vasquez length home run here. It was the shortest of his career.
Shots fired for no reason.
Does he trot around the bases just with a little bit of like a feeling of shame after you hit a home run like that?
I think it's a home run at Yankee Stadium. They're the ones who built that stadium.
They should all be ashamed.
It's a joke.
I think of all of those. Yeah.
They should all be ashamed. Just every Yankee player, whenever they step foot on the field, they're just ashamed.
They just pull that hat down over their eyes and walk around as quickly as possible. The one I really want to talk about is the strike zone. So, and The Athletic just keeps giving us articles about this. Their latest one, this is by Ken Rosenthal and Jason Stark. So kind of their two big heavy hitters. They talk about how, as it turns out, in the automatic ball strike system, there is a margin of error in that I think is pretty egregious. So they talked about Corbin Burns, who was one of the 4 player representatives on the committee that looked at this, and he told The Athletic that the margin for error was close to ½ an inch. Now, that doesn't sound like that's that awful, but it goes on to say, in other words, the system could place a pitch that was 1/10 inside the strike zone, 4/10 of an inch outside the strike zone. That's problematic to me. Because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about replay is those fractions of an inch.
Yes, I think what makes this so frustrating is that we know the games that are called well and the games that are called poorly. And you need to give some sort of recourse when the ump has an absolutely ridiculous strike zone. when he's calling things that are nowhere near the zone, the teams need to be able to do something. We've sort of gone back and forth a lot about this, about the automated strike zone, whether it's good for the game or bad for the game or how it's all going to shake out. And I didn't love the challenge system. I'm like, it seems like a halfway measure. The more and more comes out of it, Dan, and I've always said I kind of want to wait to see how effective it is before I'm really willing to put a stamp of approval on it. I'm changing my mind here. I say let's go with the challenge system just to keep the umps in check, but you stay with the umpires behind the plate, calling the pitches. And I think in that way, if an ump is really calling a bad zone, you can challenge every single pitch you need to that you know that they're wrong about. And I think it will help teams be a little bit more reserved to be only calling for those reviews when they know that it's like, dude, that was nowhere near the strike zone.
Still don't want it. Burns said this. I love this quote. He says, if we can't get something we feel is 100% accurate, why even take the job out of a guy's hands who's been doing it for 20 years behind the plate? It's that human experience, that's human element. So I hope that the conversation continues. I just worry that this is Major League Baseball continuing to push what it wants to do, but ignoring evidence along the way and still kind of plodding forward. That's what I don't want.
All right, well, let's make our picks here, Dan, for the Royals series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
The listeners are going to switch it up here after a poor showing from Larnach. They're going to take Royce Lewis off the board. Dan, who are you going with?
I guess I'm going to go with Willie Castro. He seems healthy enough, and I know that he's going to be playing some baseball games whenever they play this. Are they playing Friday? Are they playing like a half game Saturday morning and then like resuming Saturday nights?
Yes. I'm going to go with Larnach, though. I do think that he's been swinging the bat well. He had to see a couple lefties here during this series. We'll see. I think that he's going to have a good series. And then Hogues is going to stick with Clemens, which he seems a little bit like a wild card, but clearly it worked for Hogues once. There's no reason it can't work for him again. Well, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and send us out, but we'll be back on Sunday, folks, with an episode covering, hopefully, a twin sweep of the Royals. Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Men for the Win and find our Men for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform so that you're notified when the new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon, link in the description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins!
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.